This is a tutorial about the documentation of restraints for nonviolent behavior. We will begin by having already established a relationship with our patient and by having already entered the power plan for the restraints for nonviolent behavior. You'll notice that when the power plan is ordered, two power plans actually display. You have the Restraint Initiate Monitor power plan, which immediately goes into an initiated state, and you have the Restraint Continue power plan, which goes into a planned state. Once the power plan is initiated, tasking will occur. Your tasks will display on Activities and Interventions or on Care Compass. If you document from the task will take you directly to the documentation you need to do in order to properly document the restraint activity. I'm going to click on Activities and Interventions, and you'll notice that I have a Restraint Initiate Nonviolent task, and then I have several Restraint Monitoring / Discontinue Nonviolent tasks. I'm going to document from the Restraint Initiate Nonviolent task by clicking and charting the details. And you'll notice that it brings me directly to the Restraint Initiate documentation. I'm going to go through each of my fields and document the appropriate responses. One important note about a Restraint Initiate documentation is to create a dynamic group here under the Restraint Evaluation section. You create a dynamic group by clicking on this dynamic group icon. It brings up a window where you can choose the type of restraint you have applied to the patient and the restraint location. In this case, I'm going to choose soft limb right upper. Once I've completed that documentation, I click OK. You'll now notice that your dynamic group has been created, and I'm going to do just some brief documentation in here. When I save my documentation and I return to my task list, you'll notice that my Restraint Initiate task now has a green check mark, and when I refresh the screen, you'll notice that that task now disappears. I'm going to do the same thing for my Restraint Monitoring task. I'm going to right-click on the task and I'm going to document. Again, you notice that when you do right-click from the task, that it brings you directly to the documentation that you need to do in order to complete the monitoring. And again, if I go back to my Activities and Interventions, you'll note that you have a monitoring task for every 2 hours. Now we're going to move on to the Restraint Continue power plan. That was put in a planned state when the initial restraint was ordered. If the restraint needs to continue longer than 24 hours, you're going to use this Restraint Continue power plan to renew it. To activate the power plan, you simply right-click on it and you initiate it. You're going to get this order, which indicates that there's more information required. That's indicated by this icon with the white X inside the blue circle. If you click on that order, you'll notice that it brings you to the order details screen. The system is once again looking for you to document the type of restraint, and in the order comment, the location where the restraint should be applied. In this case, again, we're going to choose right upper limb. When I click on Orders for Signature and I click on Sign, and I click on Refresh, you'll notice that now that Restraint Continue power plan has been initiated. If I return to my Activities and Interventions task list and I refresh, you'll notice that I now have a Restraint Continue task, and once again, if I document from that task, it's going to take me directly to the documentation that I need to do in order to continue my restraints for the next 24-hour period. If the restraints need to be renewed for a third day, you are going to click on the Restraint Continue power plan title and you're going to replicate it. This will bring up this message, which you simply click OK. Once again, you're going to notice that this particular order needs more details. And if I click on it and then modify, once again, the system is asking you to indicate the type of restraint. And in the Orders Comments field, you want to put the location of the restraint. Again, I'm going to initiate. I'm going to click on Orders for Signature. I'm going to sign. And once I refresh my screen, you're going to notice that we have another Restraint Continue power plan that has now been initiated. As long as the same restraint episode is in effect, you're going to continue to right-click and replicate the Restraint Continue power plan, even if it flows across multiple days. However, if you discontinue the restraints and then 2 or 3 days later the restraints need to be renewed or restarted, you need to start again with the original power plan. To discontinue a restraint, you're going to do several things. You're going to go to your flowsheet documentation, and under Restraint Episode Activity Type, you're going to document that the restraint has been discontinued. You're also going to inactivate the dynamic group. To do so, you're going to click on the title of the group, in this case, soft limb right upper, and you're going to inactivate it. The system is going to ask you if you want to stop documentation for this section. The answer is yes, and you'll notice that this section is now grayed out and it will not allow any further documentation. The last thing you're going to do is you're going to go to your Orders screen, and you're going to right-click on the Restraint for Nonviolent Behavior Power Plan, and you're going to discontinue it. You're going to have to enter the physician's name. In this case, if you've taken a phone or a verbal order, you would choose one of those communication types. For the purposes of the demonstration, I'm going to choose no cosign required. Ideally, the physician should be discontinuing their own orders, but in the event that you need to take a verbal order of some sort, this is the workflow. Once you click on Orders for Signature and you click on Sign and you click on Refresh, you'll notice that your Restraint for Nonviolent Behavior Power Plan is now completely discontinued, including all the components of it. This concludes our tutorial regarding documentation for nonviolent restraints.